So the transition, the first thing I'll say in terms of the transition, I appreciate it. I love the fact that I didn't go from playing right into coaching, and the reasons why, because you need to know who you are first as an individual. When you're playing football for 21, 22 straight years, a lot of time your identity, whether you planned it or not, could be wrapped up in who you are in a football field. So I needed to know who Abdul Hodge was away from the game. And I think, and also understand, do a self-assessment, and what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the things that I need to accomplish? So I credit that time away from the game, understanding those things. And because when I did get the opportunity to coach full time at the University of South Dakota, I kind of hit the ground running.
Welcome to Show Your Receipts, where we believe if you can see it, you can be it. Receipts are evidence or proof that something has occurred. Our guests are evidence that Black excellence is alive and well. They will be sharing their receipts on how they've been able to accomplish so much in their life. I'm your host, Tony Jackson. Let's get started. Welcome to Show Your Receipts, where we believe if you can see it, you can be it. I'm going to read the bio of my guest today. Absolutely amazing bio. In today's episode, we're thrilled to welcome Abdul Hodge, a former NFL linebacker and Iowa Hawkeyes standout. While at Iowa, he led the Big Ten and ranked third in the nation in tackles per game, ranked third in the nation in solo tackles per game, tied for fifth in the Big Ten in forced fumbles, and tied for ninth in recovered fumbles. Hodge ranks third in career tackles with 453. Abdul was a three-time All-Big Ten linebacker and was drafted to the Green Bay Packers in the third round of the 2006 draft. Abdul's football journey has taken him from the gridiron to the sidelines, where he now serves as the tight ends and fullbacks coach at the University of Iowa. His playing career included stints with the Green Bay Packers, Cincinnati Bengals, and Carolina Panthers, showcasing his talent at the highest level of the sport. Abdul's expertise extends beyond playing, as he also gained valuable coaching experience, including a role as an assistant coach for the South Dakota Coyotes. Today, we'll dive into his success as a student athlete, professional athlete, and Power 5 coach. Abdul graduated with the Bachelor's of Arts in Communication and was a member of the National Honor Society at University of Iowa, and we have him here today. Abdul, welcome, my brother. Welcome.
Hey, Tone, amazing job on that bio read, man. You did a great job. Bring back a ton of memories, but glad to have me on, and I look forward to, chopping it up today, man, and having a discussion.
Absolutely. And it's easy when you got a bio like that. And I had to edit. I left a lot of stuff out. So you had an amazing career. And the thing that I'm excited to talk to you about is you went from an amazing college career to an amazing NFL career, and now you parlayed that into the beginning of an amazing and flourishing coaching career. I knew we had to get you right now on the podcast because, 5 years from now, I don't know if we're going to be able to get you. So we wanted to get you on right now. We know that you're ascending in your coaching career. Let's jump right into it for some of our viewers who don't know about what it is to be a college football coach. Talk to me about what your normal day-to-day is as a college football coach. What are you guys doing? Are you scouting players all the time? Are you on the road recruiting? Are you breaking down film? Like, what is the normal day in the life of a Power 5 football coach?
We probably will be here for about 2-3 hours, man, if I really broke it down step by step or piece by piece. But college sports, as you know, has a lot of different moving parts to it. You have academics, student athletes. You have recruiting. You have the football part of it, which is a huge piece, in terms of developing guys and putting out a great product on the field to win football games. But it depends. It goes in seasons. Everybody kind of tend to know what happens in the fall. They think that we kind of just roll out a few practices every week and then show up in Kinnick and then hope we win football games. But there's a lot of work that goes on in the background. A typical day in the fall would be, we come in here pretty early. Sometimes we will have meetings at 6:15 a.m., may have some special teams meetings or whatnot. A lot of guys will start doing refuel. Student athletes, our players will come in around 5:15, 5:30 just to get what we call refuel. They get a shake egg sandwiches, just a mini breakfast, so to speak, before their day start. And then we'll have some special teams meeting, followed by maybe a quick team meeting or position meeting. And then we're on the football field for about, 2 hours and 15 minutes, or sometimes a little bit less than that. Once that's over, typically we try to get a little workout around here, may get in the sauna, get a little workout. We got to stay in shape too. We can't let the players have all the fun and here and look good and feel good. We got to put our work in. And then we'll meet as an offensive unit, followed by a team meeting. And then you do a lot of planning in college football. A lot of it is being proactive. You have to be extremely organized, and you got to think ahead. And so we may only be on a football field 2 to 2.5 hours, but you have about 12 to 14-hour days where you really planning, researching, studying the other team. And then you have to find time for your family. You have to find time for recruiting. That's a whole nother animal. I'm pretty sure you probably get into that at some point. But there's a lot of moving pieces. But as long as you're organized and you streamline your processes and you have a routine, and one of the things that Coach Ferris preaches around here is have a routine, then I think you're going to be in great shape. But I'll set my alarm for sometimes by 5:15, 5:30, and probably even in the office 8:30, 9 o'clock some days later than that.
Talk to me, but let's dive into that a little bit more, because I feel like there's a misconception out there about professional athletes, specifically not just professional athletes in general, specifically football players, that these are just big, strong, fast guys, maybe who have a tendency to be violent, not very intelligent, undisciplined. There's a myth that is who we are. What you've just described to me was a very, very intelligent, disciplined approach to the way that you guys coach football and build what you have at University of Iowa. Talk to me about the necessity for those traits that many people assume are not connected to being a football player or a football coach.
Yeah. First and foremost, Tone, one thing I always point out to individuals, especially football specific, football players. Football is one of the only sports that you have to go to college a minimum of 3 years out of high school before you even can think about entering your name into the NFL draft. So having 3 years of a college education, to me, teaches guys discipline, teach guys how to have a rigorous schedule, how to wake up, how to do research, right? Think about our classes and how universities structure classes and the type of class you have to take, especially in gen ed. There's a lot of research and development. You're writing a ton of papers. You're getting out front in class and you execute some presentations, and you have to study. And also you having to, I just explained to you our guy's schedule and having to wake up and get over here extremely early. So there's a lot of planning. There's a lot of discipline that those guys have to be able to develop. But more importantly, when you go through, at least what we believe here, if you can go through our program 4 or 5 years, you're not just only going to develop to be a really good football player, but hopefully you develop to be a really great player, a really great leader in the community. Because Coach Ferris believes, as you know, if you've been part of this program, everyone's not going to make it to the NFL. And if you do make it to the NFL, it's usually short-lived. And if you can get 3 years max, that's probably, you're pretty lucky and pretty fortunate. So we're going to be community members. We're going to be fathers. We're going to be husbands. We're going to be guys that's leading organizations. And so the things that we try to instill with our young folks is to just be a whole person, develop character, integrity, a great work ethic, develop the power of having a really great routine and sticking to it, being proactive and not doing things at the last minute. And more importantly, being smart. When I mean smart, I don't mean academically. What I mean by smart is just having the know-how to say, hey, I need help and I need some resources that can help me accomplish the things I need to accomplish when I'm struggling. And I think those are things that our players and our student athletes, hopefully they develop their time here at Iowa. But you got to wear a lot of different hats because you're in recruiting. And also you got to be the first and foremost are your guys on campus that you got to make sure are that you're teaching them, you're developing them, you're pouring into them, and you're inspiring them to play the game. So there's a lot of things you have to do in this game, but more importantly, you got to be a people's person because that's and being in the locker room with 120 guys when we played, or even more than that, it teaches you to communicate with people from all different walks of life.
And to speak to the importance of planning and intelligence and smarts, it makes me think of the first time that I really met you. I still remember this. It was the summer, your first summer here before your freshman year.
Yep.
And I remember you, and I remember how you were different than a lot of other, people that would come in, because you seemed like you came in with a plan. I remember you asking me, I don't know if you remember this, I can't remember them apartments we used to live in. You lived with Benny and me and the kicker. I can't remember his name. Nate, I think his name was Nate. I can't remember. What's that?
Nate Kading?
No, it wasn't Nate Kading. It was the backup kicker. I lived with him. Me and G. Lou lived with him, and then you lived with Benny and Worthy.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I remember that.
So anyway, yeah. I remember you asking me all of these, you were asking me serious questions, about working out, about school. It seemed that you were really thinking, you know what I mean? You weren't just there like, I'm the man, I'm about to go just do whatever. You seem to be coming in, gaining information, thinking. And so, yeah, you definitely are a testament to some of the things you were talking about. So I guess my next question is coaching, because I want to talk about the transition. Because you were a standout in high school. You were a standout in college, got drafted pretty high, had a great NFL career, better than the average that you just described, the average 3 years. And then you made the transition to now coaching football. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about what that transition was like, because I know a lot of people struggle with the transition from identifying themselves as this football player to now going and doing something else. I had that struggle. I know a lot of people had that struggle. Talk to me about how you made that transition, maybe some obstacles that you had to overcome, and maybe some advice that you may have for other people who are going through that same process.
No, that's a great question, Tone, because I tell people, we started playing this game when we were young, right? I started playing football when I was 8, going on 9 years old, and I retired when I was about 28. So that's a long time to be playing football. So I got done. So I got drafted in 2006 to the Green Bay Packers. I played there for 2 years. Then in 2008 and 2009, I played for the Cincinnati Bengals. And in 2010, I was with the Carolina Panthers. And you know how it is, that once you're done playing, for one, you're going to try to fight like hell to get back in the NFL. Everyone does. At least I think it should, right? So I kind of spent that next year working out, training, waiting for a phone call. And I tell people this, it doesn't matter, whether you play 5 years or 10 years, you're still kind of pissed off a little bit, because at the end of the day, someone did not want you.
Right.
And that's a tough reality to try to deal with, because our entire lives, we've been, exceptional athletes, student athletes. And I remember when I got released one time in Green Bay, and I told people that was the first time I ever felt not wanted. And I'm 25 years old. So you have to deal with some adversity that you normally wouldn't have dealt with when you was younger. So I did that. When I got done and I made the decision, okay, well, the phone calls aren't coming in anymore. I mean, once they're not calling you, it's probably time to find something to do. So I really didn't want anything to do with coaching. I really didn't want anything to do with football. I was physically tired and mentally worn out. I had a family. I was married, and I really wanted to focus on them. I did not know what I really wanted to do. I wanted to entrepreneur, because my father, he was born in St. Thomas. My mom was from St. Kitts, the British Virgin Islands, and we moved to Atlanta, Georgia. He had a restaurant called Fish Supreme Deluxe, and then he started a moving company. So my dad was not into athletics, so I watched him and idolized him, his leadership, and also just his ability to be an entrepreneur. So I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to create something that I can call my own and start my own company. And that's what I did when I got done about a couple years later, when I started Professional Interactive Solutions, which really was a marketing arm for small businesses, web design, mobile application development, search engine optimization. and doing some marketing and printing for them. So now, once I started doing that, and I'm going somewhere with this, we kind of developed our own product under this when I had this tech company, and we created a loyalty program for small businesses. And then we launched that program at the Yellow Green Farmers Market in Hollywood, Florida. So naturally, I am an introvert. So now, as you know, being an entrepreneur, you have to wear a ton of hats and you got to do everything. So I'm at the Yellow Green Farmers Market and I'm selling this product. I'm talking to, I mean, when you're dealing with small businesses, you're talking to, it's a mom, it's a dad, maybe it's the brother. It's real people. It's not like a huge company that you're dealing with CEOs. You're dealing with people who are taking their hard-earned money and investing it in what they call in their business, which is their baby. So as I did that, I kind of started to get out of my shell, be out, meet different people from different walks of life, different cultures, different ethnicities and races. And then I started coaching high school football. I started coaching high school football in South Florida. I absolutely fell in love with it. And then one day I missed practice because I was limited on my time. So I was trying to grow the business at the same time. And PJ, it was a Wednesday practice, and this linebacker named PJ at Northeast High School, he said, "Coach, where were you yesterday?" I'm like, PJ, I'm trying to grow the business. I'm only could be out here like Monday and Thursday. And to make a long story short, he was like, "Coach, I needed you." And that kind of did something to me, man. That kind of like sparked, like I kind of felt selfish at the time because all PJ wanted to do was improve and get better. And he's looking at his coach, played in college, played at NFL, and he just wants some information. And I felt like I was hoarding information. And I was kind of being selfish. And after that, I said, you know what, PJ, I'll never miss another practice. So since then, I've felt great about coaching. I fell in love with it. I found myself spending more time studying huddle and thinking about schemes and thinking about guys like PJ than actually trying to grow the business. So I kind of put a plan in place. Coach Ferris was the first person that I reached out to. And I took a few other steps to get to my first coaching opportunity at the University of South Dakota. So the transition, the first thing I'll say in terms of the transition, I appreciate it. I love the fact that I didn't go from playing right into coaching. And the reasons why, because you need to know who you are first as an individual. You know, when you're playing football for, 21, 22 straight years, a lot of time your identity, whether you planned it or not, could be wrapped up in who you are in a football field. So I needed to know who Abdul Hodge was away from the game. And I think, and also understand, do a self-assessment and what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the things that I need to accomplish? So I credit that time away from the game, understanding those things. And because when I did get an opportunity to coach full time at the University of South Dakota, I kind of hit the ground running. And it was because of those experiences. It was because of the entrepreneurship background and getting out and meeting people and understanding their stories and how stories connect. But more importantly is understanding who I am as an individual.
When I'm listening to your story, what keeps coming up is just the idea of like you said, knowing yourself, self-awareness and planning. Have you always been the kind of person who plans and steps out? Because like I said, I feel like you were planning when you touched the campus of Iowa before you had any practices or enrolled in any classes. It seems like you were already thinking you had a plan in place. Has that always been who you are, or is that something that you picked up along the way?
Well, I think I saw my father being an entrepreneur, being a leader, and not kind of waiting for anybody to do anything for him. One of the things that he told me is, son, you got to do for yourself. And you got to create something for yourself. You just can't just go to just wake up and hope somebody gives you a job or give you an opportunity. You got to kind of go out and create those opportunities for yourself. So I think that always stood with me. And I kind of always had, when I think about my young self, just having the ability to just focus on what I need to accomplish, regardless of the environment, regardless of the resources that I have, regardless of where I'm at in life or whatever, just having the ability to put my head down and work. When my mom and dad separated, I grew up in a household with my mom working two jobs a day, 16 hours a day. and it was five of us. It was four brothers. So we had to be a lot for ourselves. We were waking ourselves up for school, getting ready, figuring out rides to practice, rides home from practice. So you have to grow up and be extremely mature about it. So I think those kind of things, just having to grow up a little earlier than some, gave me the ability to sort of think and plan ahead. And then when I look at it, I always looked at coming to Iowa as sort of like a quote unquote business trip where you're there for 4 or 5 years, and there's some things that we want to accomplish while we're there, and we can't forget that. And I think young people get to college and they forget why they're there, why they're at that university. And I definitely came to accomplish a couple of things, and that was getting a degree, which I did, and that was put myself in the best position possible to play in the National Football League. And I was blessed to come to a program at a really great time around really great players and really great coaches that assisted me in being able to do so.
That is awesome. Before we transition, the last question I have for you in this area is, if you were talking to somebody who maybe they are wrapping up their college football career and, they're probably not going to play in the NFL, or maybe their NFL career is coming to an end, or maybe they're a high school player and their high school career is coming to an end, and now they have to, as you said, find out who they are outside of the game. They have to figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are outside of football and make that transition like you made that transition in such a smooth way. What advice would you give that person, whether they're 18, just finishing high school, 22, just finishing college, late 20s, early 30s, just finishing the NFL? What advice would you give that person?
The first thing I would tell them is you got to do a lot of different things. Like, find out what you really like. Just like myself, I don't have a lot of hobbies. I'm a football junkie, and then I spend a lot of time with my family. But growing up, I would tell them, like, when in high school, I should have joined a drama club. It's weird as that sounds. Like, I wish I would have got into the performing arts. My son, I have a son, a 15-year-old son. He can play 3 instruments, and he was he's in a band. And so just do a lot of different things and not just go to school and play one sport, And I think when you do that, it opens your mind up to be creative, to think outside the box. The other thing I'll say is to remain fluid, and don't be fixed in this is what I need to do or else. I think that's a fixed mindset versus having a growth mindset. And they're saying, you know what, there's a lot of different things that I can do if this doesn't work out. Now, there's a two-headed monster. The other part of it is one of the reasons why a lot of guys are successful and a lot of guys make it to the highest levels, whether it's that NFL, NBA, MLB, WNBA, or being one of the top CEOs in America, is because they never gave themselves a choice. They didn't have options. So sometimes options kind of give you, when it gets tough, you have an exit plan. So a lot of us, when we came to college, we really didn't have a lot of options, but that's also not healthy, because when you look at the data, when you look at the information, it tells us not everybody is making it to the next level. And if you do, it's not going to be long. So what I would say is continue to build relationships with many different people. How I got my first full-time coaching job with John McLaughlin. Remember John? He was a GA.
Yeah.
So I reached out to John. I had not talked to John like at least 14, 15 years, I promise you. But I hit him up on Twitter, a direct message. He was the offensive line coach at Columbia University. And I said, John, I'm looking for, here's what I've been doing. I coached here, high school. I interned with the Tennessee Titans, went back to Iowa a couple of weeks to, shadow Seth Wallace. Now I'm looking for a full-time. I'm trying to take next step, find a full-time coaching position. So if you know anyone that's hiring and you think I'll be a great fit for, please pass my name along. John responded right away. He said, Abdul, I know you're a great coach. Keep in mind, John and I hadn't spoken since I was at University of Iowa years ago. Had to be like 10, 15 years ago. And he said, I think you'd be a great coach. In fact, Coach Nielsen at South Dakota is hiring a defensive coordinator and assistant defensive coach. Not gonna pay well. I don't know where it's gonna pay, but you'll be around great people. And not only did he pass my name along, but Coach McLaughlin also advocated on my behalf. He shared with me the text message that he sent Coach Nielsen. The reason what I'm saying this is because the best thing you can do to set yourself up for the future is to maximize your opportunity wherever you are, whether it's high school, whether that's in college, because people, especially athletes, people will remember you for who you were and what you represented as a student athlete. If I was
Absolutely
not taking care of my business, if I was not a leader, if I was, just very immature, that whatever that case may be, or just not handling my business or maximizing my opportunity, that would have been the only thought or the only perception that John would have had of me. So what I tell people is who you are in college, that's who they're going to remember 15, 20 years from now. So the best thing you can do to help yourself in the future is to maximize your opportunity and be a stand-up individual in the community, be a leader in your own way. Don't mean you have to get on the field and make a ton of tackles. That's not what I'm saying. It's not about what you put out on the football field. It's who you are as an individual, who you are as a teammate, because people will remember that years from there now. And I think that's the biggest thing that helped me is maximizing my time in Iowa.
What you just said, it made me think of a couple of things. The idea of confidence and leadership. That's something that I feel like you've had since I've known you at Iowa. I remember that when you were a freshman, I remember that you had a 400-pound bench press. And the reason why I remember you had a 400-pound bench press is I never forget one night we were in the dorms, Hillcrest days. My door was open, and you came in my door. You said, "Tony, I got 200 right here, and I got 200 right here." And I'm like, "Who's this freshman dude?" Well, you just had this confidence about you, even at a young age. And to speak to the leadership, I remember when I left Iowa, I think I got drafted or something. And I came back to Iowa for something. It was your senior year. You in Greenway, and I remember you guys were running sprints. And I'll never forget this because this is the first time I'd ever seen this at the University of Iowa. Yep. You were running sprints, and you were in the semi group. You were linebackers, tight ends, quarterbacks. We all in the semi group. You got the speed group and you got the line group. But you in Greenway decided voluntarily that you guys were going to run with the faster group. And y'all was making all y'all times. I'm like, damn, you just volunteered to do extra. And when a team sees some of their best players pushing themselves to the next level, when they don't have to, it definitely is a standout. So the idea of confidence and leadership through example is something that you've always embodied. Abdul, a question I have for you is, what do I need to know about you in your younger days as a kid to understand the man who I'm talking to today?
My younger days?
Yeah. What do I need to know about the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old Abdul Hodge that would explain to me, or that would give me an indication of the man that you've become today?
When I think about that young kid, when I talk to my mother and my older brothers, somehow I was blessed with the ability to have delayed gratification. And as a young kid, just growing up, you don't have all the good stuff, right? Like I say, grew up in a single family household for the most part, and there's 5 of us. So a lot of times you don't have a ton, in terms of school clothes, school starting. Sometimes you're not gonna have new school clothes. That's just what it is. Christmas, my mom said, "Hey, it's 5 of you guys, pick one gift and share it amongst each other." So you grow up out and out. Not a ton, because you had a lot of love. So that's why I'm not going to say, okay, I'm not going to go that route, because I thought I grew up in a great household. My mom loved me. I was around a lot of love from my aunts, cousins, and my brothers. But you had to be a lot for yourself. You had to grow up extremely fast. And what I would say is just having the ability to stay focused, man, at a young age. But more importantly, also scared, scared because what if I don't go to college? I don't have a backup plan. I don't have, my family don't have a trust account. Mom and dad didn't save, put coins away for college one day. So you grow up with in fear a little bit, like, what if this thing doesn't work out? What if this plan doesn't work out? And so you kind of use that fear, even at that age, to say, you know what, when you start feeling that anxiety, when you start to, internalize what not being successful feels like, grab your cleats, go to the field, and push them.
That's right.
Pat, coach, come pick me up. Let's go to the gym and let's work out. That's kind of who you see today is who I was for a long time. But I'm more outspoken. I was an introvert. If there were parties going on at the house, you have family parties, man, I'd be in the room by myself. Couldn't wait till the party's over. I don't know, but whether it's that shy, whatever. But what you see now, that's why I tell people to play sports, because when you play sports, it allows you to be around a lot of different people. It allows you to get out your comfort zone. It allows you to be challenged. It forces you to be outspoken. It forces you to have confidence in who you are. And it forces you to put the people around you to push you, because you can't be successful by yourself. I don't care who, when you talked about running those 55 and me and Greenway and myself bumping up to the skill group. Well, it was not just myself. It was Greenway holding me accountable too. And I'm like, okay, if so I couldn't get up to the skill group, see him do it and just not go and do it. I'm like, he do it, I'm doing it, and it's the same thing. If I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it and let's do it. Then Greenway gonna be like, yeah, is Abdul doing it? So just kind of being around people that's gonna push you, gonna challenge you, because we could have easily just sat in a semi group, but we want to continue to raise that standard. So when I think about who I were as a young kid, man, somebody that was scared, somebody that was shy, somebody that was not, outspoken, internalized a ton of things. But I think, just the growth and development of coming to college and coming to Iowa, and I'm continuously growing. This game is about learning and growing. It's not just about staying where you are. And it's a continued journey, and the process continues to just trying to develop and be a better person, be a better leader, a better coach, a better father, a better husband. And we all in this race, man, to just be better.
Absolutely. You touched on a couple of different things. Talk to me about, because I agree with you 100% on the idea of the fear, the anxiety. I grew up with a single mom. I knew what it was like in the North to go a winter with no heat. You know what I mean? No electric. Like, we'd have been there. We went through that kind of stuff, and the anxiety of, like, man, using that as fuel. So when I went to Iowa, it was no way I was going home. Yeah. Those dorms was the best place I'd ever lived in my life. Like, I'm not about to mess this up.
All right, it's like a Ritz-Carlton, man.
It's the best. Yeah. So the question I have for you is, and this is more for me than it is for the audience, but the question I have for you is, as a father, and the fact that you've been successful and you be able to create a different reality for your two kids. I think you say you have a 23-year-old and a 16-year-old.
Yep.
You've been able to create a different reality, a different upbringing. They've been able to have probably more advantages than you were able to have.
Yes. How
do you now try to instill that fire, that hunger that caused you to react to anxiety and fear by grabbing your cleats and going to the gym? How do you impart that same energy to them when they don't have those same concerns that we had when we were growing up?
Yeah, that's definitely a balancing act, because you want them to have that grit. You want them to be mentally and physically tough. You want them to be able to deal with adversity and be able to overcome that. But the reality is they will never be in the same. You can't duplicate it. You can try to as much as you can. You put them in athletics. Like, I think baseball is a great sport. One of the sports my son plays is baseball, because when he's at the plate and they're down, they're down, and they're in the 6th and 7th inning, and there's a run on third, and you already got 2 strikes on you, and there's 2 outs. Like, no one's coming to help you. You got to figure this thing out. You got to put that ball in play, and you got to bring your teammate home. So I go back to sports. I think sports teaches you a lot of different things and can try its best to put you in those situations where there is going to be disappointment, but it's very hard to duplicate. The other thing that I'll say is, growing up the way that I did, or even yourself, it really shouldn't be like that, you really should grow up in a household where you see your parents working together, you see the teamwork, you see the bond, you see the union, and that you have the resources around you to really be successful. So you're not living in lack, or you're just not living where you don't have, so we try to give our kids, what we didn't have and put the resources around them to be successful. And I'm proud that my daughter or my son that is not going to experience the things that I experienced, even though I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it made me who I am today. And I'm really proud of that. But it's our job to continue to push this thing forward and to make sure that our kids are more successful than we are, And like my daughter, she's in nursing school. She played all at Bethune-Cookman, HBCU in Daytona Beach. Wow. Excellent student in math and science, and reading. He plays 3 instruments. He plays the saxophone, play the bass, and he can play the keys. So, you want your kids to grow up having some rigor, having some grit, some toughness, and those things will happen on the car ride home from the softball tournaments. We got a 3-hour drive home, baby, and you're going to hear all of this. You know what I'm saying? You need to be a better leader. You got to show up and for your teammates, talking about your demeanor. So, so we still can instill that. And end of the day, it's about the mindset. So our experiences, they will never be able to experience, but we can also put the disciplines, the mindset into place and put them in sports and make them ultra competitive. Because I tell people, man, if you're a student athlete in college or in high school and you're balancing those things and you still have, keeping your grades high and everything. I mean, you was in microeconomics, man. I remember you was in those classes. I'm like, boy, Tom, how you in those classes? Endorsed, you was, so, and hopefully that it pays off. And then when they have kids, they got to continue to push this thing forward, not start in the negative, where we was at.
Right.
So we're just trying to push this thing forward to the next generation, Tone. And you know how it is, man. And they can have better and do better than we, experience the things that we didn't experience and push this thing forward. That's what it's really about. But it's tough to duplicate. But the best you can do is put your kids in sports and don't be one of the parents or coaches that trying to save them. Hey, if you ain't playing, you don't like it, hey, do something about it.
Exactly.
Get your butt in the garage. You got a bow net, you got a tee, and go hit some balls. Don't get upset, coach, because you're not where you at in the lineup and that kind of stuff. My son's he's a really good player and all that, but this is how I taught my kids. You don't
absolutely.
The thing I know is to go to work. Help you. Put your head down, put in the work, wake up early, hit 300 balls before you go to school. Come home again, another 300 balls. And I think, what you can put in them is a work ethic and the disciplines that we accumulated when we was in sports.
I love to listen to you talk, Abdul, because your story is so amazing, the success you've had in different levels. Now, as we're talking about parenting, you pulled a lot out in regards to how to parent your kid when you came from lack, even though they're coming from abundance. Talk to me about, because you mentioned something too about it should be the norm for kids to see their parents working as a partnership.
Yep.
Talk to me about your philosophy, your thought process on building a family. You started a family young, so you got experience in that area and having this union with your wife. And talk to me about what that union with your wife means in regards to how you view your success and how that relates to just the overall rearing and building of the family you have and more so just developing your kids.
Yep. Yeah, no, first and foremost, I will say this. If it was not for my wife, I would not be sitting in this office doing this Zoom. Everyone needs a great team member. Everyone needs to know what it feels like to be loved. What it feels like to be supported. In the NFL, 3 years out of, I think when you're in the NFL, and I believe there's a stat that says 3 years post playing your playing career. So 3 years into retirement, I think the divorce rate is like 75% or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I do believe, and then you hear that, okay, well, this 75-80% of guys go broke, whatever the case may be. A lot of guys struggle after their playing careers. I believe one of the number one reasons is because of relationships. Having someone that really care about you unconditionally, because at some point those lights are going to turn off. At some point, you ain't gonna be in the stands and everybody gonna be cheering because you know, NFL wife or whatever the case may be. At some point, you're gonna find out who you're married to when those lights turn on, and the stadium lights aren't on anymore, and you're not going through the you know, the spotlight's not on you. So I just give my wife a lot of credit for being there, being supportive, and she's a rock star herself. You know, she has a master's in social work. She's a professor at the University of South Dakota in the School of Social Work. So she's doing a lot of great things herself, but just having a great teammate, having a great partner, you know, makes the difference. And I think the reason I'm able to come to the office and coach freely, knowing everything is going to be great at home and everything's going to be taken care of, and I can come over here with a clear mind and do the best that I can do and do my job well, is because of my wife, Shabli. And she does a great job with kids and handling everything and just making sure everything runs well, you know, and more importantly, endorsing what I'm doing, because that's a huge part of it too. And I know I'm jumping around here, but when I spoke to Coach Ferentz was the first person I spoke with when I told him that I wanted to coach at the collegiate level. And what was his advice or his thoughts? And the first thing he said is, Abdul, you have to make sure that your family is on board with it. So, and I went and talked to my kids. I went and talked to my wife, and they fully endorsed it. You know, if they did not endorse it, who knows, probably wouldn't have took the steps to coach at the collegiate level. But since I had a full endorsement and they think, Daddy, I think you should do it, then I went ahead and went forward with it. And it allows me, to me, if the home is not right, then it's going to affect the way I coach these kids and I teach these kids. It's going to have, I'm not going to be able to do my job to my best ability. So home has to be right first, and then come here and do your best. If not, you're going to really struggle as a coach, because you need that support system. And I have that with my wife and my two children. But outside of that, man, is just having great balance, work, family balance, and just, you know, trying to make them part of the process as well, and spend as much time as possible with them to make them happy. Because, you know, this journey, you can't do it by yourself. And that's what I'll leave with on your last point. You can't do this thing by yourself. You need somebody that's going to be encouraging you, because they're going to see us when we're down. She was there and seeing me when, you know, I was in my dark days, you know, upset about whatever, coming home from work. This is when I'm talking about playing in the NFL and probably thinking I'm going to get released, whatever. So just having someone to encourage you, to keep you motivated. And sometimes you just need somebody to say, hey, babe, you can do it. I believe in you. You know, just keep going. Don't quit, you know, whatever. And sometimes that's the difference between guys being successful and not being successful, is having someone that believes in them.
Man, Abdul, we're going to wrap up with that, man. You have been, man, thank you for taking the time to share with me today. This conversation has been dope. I mean, we done hit on so many different things. I'm excited for the coming season. I know y'all cooking up some big things. I'm going to be in Iowa City watching y'all. Abdul, if people want to find you anywhere, you know, is it a social media or anywhere that you want people to be able to see, you know, connect with you?
Yeah, I think Twitter, I'm probably on Twitter the most because of recruiting and following our student athletes, and also high school kids. So you can find me at first name _Hodge, so it's Abdul _Hodge at Twitter, or X, I should say. I'm saying X. But before we leave, Tom, man, I definitely want to congratulate you and your wife and your family for what you guys are doing. The one thing I remember you as a teammate, man, you was focused, man. You was focused. You was always a great teammate. You squat the house, probably the biggest calves, the biggest quads. But more importantly, man, you was a heck of a player, and you was a really great teammate. And you was smart as crap. I'm like, man, this dude got microeconomics. He a business major. I just tell him, where this guy from? You know. So I appreciate you, brother, man. You're doing a great thing, and you're gonna continue to do great things. And I appreciate you having me on. But man, you're a rock star, man. You're doing your thing. I'm proud of you.
Man, I appreciate that, Abdul. And it's a wrap from there.